In today's video, giving you a quick update and breakdown of where we are at in this cycle and how this could be the next move up, but not without some potential consolidation and a move down, which you may have already seen by the time you've watched this video. And again, some hot takes from Raoul. So stay tuned.
Bitcoin is booming. Are you cashing in or missing out? At Drip2 BTC, we're rewriting the rules of Bitcoin investing. Earn up to 30% ROI on your deposits, unlock incredible Bitcoin discounts, and transform credit into up to 3,000% APR growth. No hassle, just real results. Don't wait, your future is one deposit away. Drip2btc.com. Invest smart today.
Hey guys, welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Poverty, where we don't trust, we verify, and operate with integrity and transparency. Once again, we're going to dive into this global M2 theory that a lot of people adopt, and then there are others that want to say it's more complicated than that. Raoul says it really is that simple because M2 is Bitcoin is 90% correlated to M2. So it's not 100%, but it's definitely a safe enough bet for you to look at M2 where it's at, and then with that 3-month to 4-month lag, you can kind of hedge your bets and say where Bitcoin's going to go or where it's going to be. So let's play that clip real quick.
Video.
What's funny to me is we've kind of proven that liquidity is 90% of the price movement of crypto and 97.5% of the NASDAQ. So it is the dominant macro factor, but people don't want to believe it. And because like global M2 leads by 3 months, what happened is in Q4, global liquidity was draining because the dollar went up and rates went up and etc. And so that has the knock-on effect in Q1. And then what everybody does is apply narrative in Q1. It's the tariffs, we're going through recession. It was nothing to do with that. It was just the liquidity. So it's kind of like, yeah, it was this easy. Now, what it will do, it will decouple at some point. And normally it decouples in the bull phase of the cycle and then the full bear phase, because that's when fear and greed take over. And like the FOMO part of it is when network adoption increases massively, and it starts breaking away from M2, which is why it only has a 90% correlation, not 100%. So I think we'll see that now. And it's just saying now is, if this continues to play out, it's just banana zone from now until July. And then we've had, we've got to think 3 months in advance. So what we've had is the dollar correcting the last couple of weeks, rates correcting. So we should see the market correct in August.
Yeah.
And maybe it's as simple as that. And that will be very...
So let's take a look at that so you can get a better kind of insight or glimpse into what he's saying. But there was something he put on X. I don't have that clip up right now, but it's basically, yeah, you want to start looking at July, August as where you can start taking lifestyle chips off the table. And then we're going to look at the M2 chart as well. So let's take a look at this chart here from... Now, there are tons of M2 versus Bitcoin charts. And again, depending on who you follow or what you read or whatever you can hear, 12 weeks, 3 months, 96 days. I've heard different numbers, and this one here says 81-day lead. The point is that anywhere between, we'll call it 12 weeks, which is 84 days, all the way up to like 4 months. So we'll call it 80 to 120 days. M2 is leading Bitcoin. So this chart is very, very telling to show where we're actually at right now. So I'm recording this on Monday morning in Thailand. It is 1 p.m. and we just had a huge Bitcoin correction. So we got up, and you can look here. So first, let's digest this. The orange is M2 and the blue is the Bitcoin price. And it's hard to tell on here, but you can see the blue line went down again. So like orange is the M2 supply, and then you see that there's a correction here, right? So let's take a look at where Bitcoin is at and what it was doing over the weekend, which is very, very interesting. So you come to, where did my Bitcoin chart go? Here we go. So I have this set on, it's on a daily. So literally we got up to 106 and some change on Sunday. So we were sitting down on Saturday at 103 level, jumped all the way up to 106. And depending on what chart you're looking at on Bitcoin, this is Bitcoin on Binance with Tether. It looks like the 106 is the high. On some other charts, it's 109. But the point is, we went up there, got rejected, and now we're back down to 103. And that lines up identically with this. Now, how much lower can it go with M2? How long does that last? Maybe a day, maybe two. Does it go back into the 90s? I have no idea. Like, I don't know how to represent how sharp of a rejection that is and how far it will go down. But point is, after this, which is what Raoul Powell was saying, it's kind of up until July, August timeframe, then we'll probably see another correction. So that's where this can potentially come in. There's a move up here and then some down, and then we're up again and then down. So there could be two more potential opportunities. So let's just say this is BTC at 120, then maybe back down to 105, that 106 level becomes support. Then we get up to say 130, 135, somewhere in there. This is again what Raoul Powell was talking about, the 150 level. I don't really know. Actually, it's right here. I should be paying attention to this. That's interesting. So was I right? Yeah, so that's like 120, 130, 130. Then this is right below 120. So I was saying we go down to 105, who knows? Then you got up to 150 and then retesting back to the previous breakout, like 130 range. And then we're breaking 160s or whatever. So how long that takes, this is showing takes all the way up till July 26th. So we'll see. But either way, you'll have plenty of opportunities to take some lifestyle chips off the table, as he was mentioning. Nobody's going to be able to time the tops, so to speak. I mean, you'll be able to look at M2 and decide potentially where we're going from here. But I also believe this is going to go well into next year, because whoever comes in to replace Powell, I believe that they will be much more supportive of rate cuts. We can still see the rate cuts this year, but as of right now, inflation is dropping. All other countries are cutting rates. So this could lead well into next year before we have a potential bear market, you know? So we'll see. Let's go into this last clip where Powell's talking about Bitcoin dominance and into altcoins, because that's where the silly, funny money is made.
Peak of Bitcoin dominance and said, I think dominance has peaked. I think it has. It's the right point in the cycle. It's this part in the banana zone when it happens. It usually happens after this first correction. So if that's right, and let's say Bitcoin goes from 100K to 150K for easy maths, then if you look at the performance of the other tokens, you can kind of impute what happens is that Sui probably does 3x that. So Bitcoin dominance, generally when it falls, it is the start of the silly season. I mean, that's, obviously, by definition, it means that other tokens are outperforming Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's going up, which we're still going up, then what we should see is that. So I think, we've had a little correction of Bitcoin dominance, went from 62 back to 63. It'll top out again and then move lower. And that next move, people will really start to see it. And I think that's the move when Bitcoin goes to all-time highs and everything else goes completely bananas. So here's the same kind of period in 2021. So it happened in Jan that time around. That drop went from 70 something percent down to 38% in a few months.
That's crazy.
That's alt season. We saw it here back in 2017, which I think is a very similar one. It started like in Feb 17. That went from 95 to 35.
Yeah.
What's interesting is Bitcoin dominance over time is falling. So the peaks are always less.
Lower highs.
The lows seem to be roughly equal, but it suggests to us that we should come somewhere back down here. And it happens fast. It happens in 2, 3, 4 months. My bet has been, as you know,
so Bitcoin dominance dropping is where we see, like you said, the banana zone, funny money, silly time, where all the alts start to pump. But this also shows you right now that we are a far cry from the Bitcoin peak for Bitcoin dominance and whatever the all-time high is. So like he said, we have this drawback, and you can see this right now on the weekly, but this could also represent that M2 drawdown that we saw in this chart, right? So Bitcoin dominance, seeing M2 come down, that also affects Bitcoin price, which affects Bitcoin dominance, right? So right now we're slightly above 63 again, but like he mentioned before as well, we see the previous cycle highs for dominance dropping quite a bit. So in 2017, when it was pretty much just Bitcoin and nothing else, you had BTC dominance because it was the only thing out there in the 90s. But then, like you mentioned, this is February 2017, and come all the way down to January, a year later, January 18, it went to 36%. So this was just a massive drawdown. But then it shot back up to the 70s. So 70 seems to be about the peak for where your altcoin season hits. So when we hit somewhere around the high 60s to low 70s, and you start to see Bitcoin dominance coming back down, and it's going to start to line up with M2 money supply, then you can kind of say possibly the top is in somewhere with Bitcoin. And then that's where the money starts to roll into the alts. People are like, yo, I made a bunch of money on Bitcoin. It's already run its course. Let me take some of this money and put it into something else that still has some room to grow. So Powell is big on SUI, and he still thinks Solana is going to do really well. But he also, I'm not going to play that clip, but he also mentioned that ETH could still do pretty well this cycle as well. So all that really is just going straight from the top market cap cryptos and coming down the line where people just start to roll into more risk, just because tokens with lower market cap can moon much more. So if you look at something like a SUI sitting at a 12 billion and you got a Solana at 84, so it's like, okay, just between those two, there's a 7x built into SUI. And then the same thing for Solana, taking a market share from ETH, there's a 3x in there. And ETH at its all-time high was about twice as much as it's sitting at now. So that was at a $500 million market cap. And Solana is a far cry from $500 million. So we're looking at a 6x in Solana. Like, I'm not big on Solana or SUI. I have a small bag in both, and I've been dollar cost averaging Solana, SUI, and Doge actually since January in my Bitcoin DCA strategy. So we will see what happens with that, but do not round trip your bags. I did that in the last cycle. So you can still definitely be buying in. It's not too late, but I would highly recommend whatever you do. The dollar cost average strategy is the easiest, safest for the normie investor that doesn't want to try to trade tokens. And I definitely recommend, not financial advice yet, not going too far out on the risk curve. Like I said, staying with the top 100s. And if you don't really follow any of these and you're not familiar with what they're doing, and if they've had their run up or not, then I would say just stick to BTC. That is the one thing that you can hashtag don't fuck this up from Raoul. So there's nothing else that you can really safely gamble on without some additional risk. And Bitcoin is just proven itself that it'll be here and withstand the test of time. The others, like if you saw ETH, had a huge drawdown recently, so you could have been buying ETH, draw dollar cost average ETH, and we're still just waiting on this ETH cycle, and it's just taking so much longer to run. And I just believe, for me personally, it's still going to be here, but there's more of that capital flowing into other tokens because people are like, well, I missed ETH in 2017. Let me catch the next ETH. Maybe that's Solana, maybe that's SUI. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. Still believe there's room to grow in it, but I'm just not an ETH maxi by no means. BTC all the way, and then 20% into the other alts. So I still got BNB because I just, Binance has built an entire ecosystem around their token. They're not decentralized, but they are the #1 global crypto exchange. And now that CZ's out of jail, he seems to be rubbing elbows with some of the other people, sovereign wealth funds and stuff like that with Abu Dhabi. So I just believe they're going to be doing something in the future. So we'll see. All right, that's all I got. Smash that HBO special, help brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below. And until next time, lift daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.